So you all finish college, you all get day jobs. What was the state of the site by that end of that 4 years? Like, was it getting any traffic? Did it had readership outside of your university? What happened in 2018 that took the site to the next level?
We then called each other and we had this movement. I remember walking next to a canal and saying that, okay, let's really do this. And I have to credit my co-founders again. They were like, let's do it right this time.
How did you start to create a better business, in terms of developing better advertising revenue streams?
2020 for us was honestly, Simon, learning by fire. We were learning every part of the publishing business, right? To figuring out monetization, to figuring out what does scaling up look like, to figuring out how does launching different sports looks like. There is no perfect answer, but when you are going through that growth curve, you're just in it.
In today's episode, we're talking to Suryansh Tibarewala, the co-founder of EssentiallySports. EssentiallySports began in 2014 as a bootstrapped passion project started by Suryansh and his co-founders while they were college students in India. It started as a simple WordPress site focused on tennis and Formula One. The site ran for 4 to 5 years with virtually no revenue, relying largely on volunteer contributors. But then in 2018, the site's founders decided to quit their day jobs and go all in. They expanded the sports coverage, found reliable advertising partners, and eventually grew EssentiallySports into one of the largest sports sites ranked by Comscore, all without raising outside capital. In a recent interview, Suryansh walked through the site's early days, its expansion into US sports, and its B2B live event strategy. Hello, I'm Simon Owens, and this is The Business of Content, the show about how publishers create, distribute, and monetize their digital content. If you want to listen to an audio version of this show, subscribe to The Business of Content wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, let's jump into the interview. Hey Suryansh, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Simon. Thanks for inviting me.
So you are the co-founder of this amazing company, one of the most popular sports media sites in the entire world. And what's so amazing about it is that it just kind of started from nothing and was completely bootstrapped. So we have a lot to dive into because obviously you started this 10 years ago. I want to tell the whole story. I'd love to start with the origin story. From what I understand, it was you and a few other students in college that started this together. What year was it, and what college were you going to?
It's definitely my life's work, Simon, so it's something I'm quite excited to talk about. It was Harit and Jaskirat, who are my now co-founders. We were just college students back in India in 2014, when it started as one of those dorm rooms passion project, something that you do because you find it interesting, not because you saw something and you wanted to write a vision statement, etc. It was something we were passionate about and felt it was a way of expression, and that's how we started.
And what were you specializing in? What was your major in university?
So I'm a computer science graduate. At that time, I was in my freshman year. I've actually been making money online since I was 14 years old. So I was used to fiddling around things on the internet. I've believed that internet allows you to cross boundaries and do whatever you want. And my co-founder Harit actually is the one who bought the domain, EssentiallySports.com, just $10 on domain.com. And he's a big tennis guy. He plays tennis every day. His dad used to play tennis. And that's where he thought, okay, let's just write about tennis on the website.
And so when you said you've been making money online since you were 14 years old, what were you doing when you were a teenager that you were making money online?
Bunch of things. I was doing competitions online. There used to be these internet competitions where you play a sports quiz or some create quizzes. Then there used to be competitions. Then I even used to do Fiverr.com kind of stuff as well. I just found the idea of that you could go online and discover something and actually make money. That idea just blew my mind always.
Yeah. So your co-founder was into tennis. What were you into any sports yourself?
So I would say I'm more of an internet guy. I definitely like cricket quite a bit at that time. Now I've started to like a lot of sports. My other co-founder, Jaskirat, he brought Formula One in. He was probably one of the only 3 guys in India who used to follow Formula One. It was not that famous. This is 6 years before Drive to Survive. I used to follow a bunch of different sports, but internet is where my passion came in a way.
And so were your 2 co-founders, were they also freshmen as well?
Yeah. We were all similar batches.
And to the best of your memory, what was the conversation that you had? So you had one who liked tennis, one who liked F1. You were into the internet stuff, so maybe you were the one they were approaching about setting up the blog and stuff like that. So what was? Do you remember what that kind of initial conversation was like?
I have to say, Simon, you're the first person who has asked me the question in this frame. So that's good to hear. The conversation was actually, so I'll just paint the picture for you. So in India, there were two colleges, one in North, where me and Jaskirat were, and in South, where Harit was. And we were connected through mutual friends. And what used to happen was it became like a wave between our colleges somehow that we got connected, and then everybody kind of wanted to write in a way. So at a certain point, we had bunch of different volunteers just writing because they found it like interesting in a way. And Harit, Jaskirat, and me kind of became like the cornerstone of making these things happen. But it would not be fair to say that it was just us. I felt like at that moment it was kind of a wave between our colleges. It was almost like a college society that was going on.
So you're saying I'm not sure I completely understand. So who created was it a blog on like Blogspot or WordPress, or where was the initial website published?
Yeah, so basically, Harit bought the domain. Then we set up the WordPress on like servers and stuff. It was a basic WordPress website. And initially it was just tennis. Then we found Jaskirat, and Jaskirat was like, let's write Formula One. And then we had like different people helping us out in a way. But the three of us, we used to have these like management call every week where we would like run, and these were like WhatsApp groups where things were being run. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it was you and you started it with on the just with tennis, and then the second co-founder or the third co-founder somehow linked up with you and then said,
Yeah.
I'll come and watch F1. But
Yeah.
then you also knew other people in college who wanted to write for this, so you were just like managing basically all these different writers and stuff like that.
Yes. Yes. You got it.
And did you know back then that you wanted it to be a business, or what was your kind of thought back then?
So at that moment, it was honestly a place of expression. And that expression was happening in many ways. It was expression of tennis and Formula One, the sports fandom. It was for me an expression of creating something on internet again. It was even like for my co-founder Harit, it was an expression of people management in a way. Like he always wanted to like manage people and like do those things. So we were all finding a mojo of we would do this for free, basically. So and actually that's what we did for the first 4 or 5 years. Like we made zero money out of this. Even if company made any money, it was just kept into the company itself.
And were you writing at the time, and what were you writing about if you were?
Yeah, I wrote briefly for the first year. So I wrote a bunch of women's cricket. I wrote a little bit of tennis. Yeah, majorly between these two sports, I used to write at that moment.
So you all finish college, you all get day jobs. What was the state of the site by that into that like 4 years? Like, was it getting any traffic? Did it had readership like outside of your university?
So, interestingly enough, even in university, we were getting traffic outside our university even before. So we had writers writing from like UK, West Indies, etc. as well, like US, all kinds of places in different forms. And we used to get traffic from these communities online, like Facebook, Reddit, etc. And we've always been a company which has cared about analytics and like really feeling that pump of, okay, we got 50 clicks on our article and being excited about that. So that street cred culture was there. But as you know, media business, like 50 clicks doesn't make you enough revenue to run this thing. So when we graduated in college, by that time, what had happened was when we moved to our day job, the passion can only run for so much across a big team. So most of the people had graduated and went to do different day jobs, and this became too much of a thing to think about. And a big part of media is consistency, and we were not able to be consistent with that kind of a setup. So then we had like a lull period around 2017 when we graduated for a year, where we kind of shifted to our new lives and started the day jobs. The most of the contributing organization had trickled down, and we were maybe doing 5K clicks a month or something at that moment. But
Five
somehow,
5,000 hits a month.
Yeah, something like that, probably. And but somehow we felt there is something on it. Like that was a common feeling that we were feeling that this project is bigger than us. In a way, it didn't feel like a blog you go write on the night. It just always felt like this is something we want to build. We didn't do it in the mind frame that it should, let's say, fund our life or anything, but it definitely was the mind frame that we want this to exist in the world because we are doing something with the fans' perspective that we really want to hear in a way. And that idea kept it alive even in that slow phase that we got like one full-time writer, but we used to kept still doing something on it. So, and that really got us to that phase in 2018 when we really picked it up again.
So, were you monetized before 2018? Were you monetizing the site at all?
Yeah, we had like a basic AdSense kind of a stuff set up. I remember, yeah, it reminded me of this story in 2016. I got introduced to Sovereign, SOVRN, the SSP DSP provider, and that was like one of my first international calls made, figuring out how does that monetization work, etc. And like my co-founders used to think this guy is like magic. Like how are we making revenue from like another company or something? Just a side story. Now we know, of course, way more than that. But that was an interesting time to just find out how this world works.
So, what happened in 2018 that took the site to the next level?
It was, I think, one of those just serendipitous movement. I remember we used to like connect from time to time, and in 2018 October, all of us had been through like 1 year of our phase in our day jobs at that moment, and there was this feeling that, especially, I can speak for myself. I strongly felt at that moment. So I used to work at booking.com in Amsterdam at that time. And I used to work in new product development department, like launching new stuff was the core responsibility. And I worked on three different new projects in 1 year, and all of them kind of killed without me getting to know at the right time in a way. And that emotion didn't sit very well with me. I felt if you're creating something, I want to be like responsible for what I'm creating. And if it's not working, it's not working. But I don't want to be blinded when it closes in a way. And at that moment, I felt, okay, this energy that I have of newness that I want to add, let's really do that more on something that I care about so much. And that emotion was important for me. And I'm sure like probably my co-founders felt similar emotions around the same time. And we then called each other and we had this moment. I remember walking next to like a canal and saying that, okay, let's really do this. And I have to credit my co-founders again. They were like, yeah, let's do it right this time. Like let's make it like we divided responsibilities between us that Jaskirat will bring in the content magic. Harit said that to me that you become the idea guy. And Harit was like, I'll ensure that it happens in the next 24 hours. And that moment and then that discipline of, okay, let's make it happen from there. And then we decided that we'll connect every Saturday. We used to ensure that let's just do it. And then we somehow doubled every month post that.
But so you didn't quit your day jobs right then. That was just we need to stay committed with keeping in touch with each other and making sure we're publishing on a more consistent schedule and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. I think like for the next 12 months, we didn't quit our job.
Yeah. So you said you started doubling every month. Were you still mainly covering like tennis and F1?
Yeah, so tennis and Formula One, it coincided with, yeah, tennis and Formula One F1 was a good time because it kind of coincided with our growth in UK and US market at that time. Like we saw that we were growing very well in these two markets. And that kind of showed that it was possible. And a big difference that we noticed was that India does not have a big reading audience because the age group in India versus Western countries is really different. India is very youngster oriented. Like half of the population of India is below 30-year old. But UK and US has like above 40-year old, like significant portion, which fundamentally means more reading and editorial audience. That was our first insight before the CPM and the RPM kind of things also came into our life. And that really showed us that, okay, this fandom that we are finding across the internet is very like real, and it doesn't really limit itself to boundaries.
So, like, what kind of, in terms of the content you were creating, I'm guessing that this was kind of like sports columns, like writing about races or matches and stuff like that. You weren't doing, at least at that point, like any kind of like original reporting or anything like that. Is that correct?
Yeah, so original reporting is a really broad term. I would define the way what we were doing was, so either you can just write match reports, which is like what happened in the match. That I feel it's boring, which is why like we existed, that we found boring. And then there was this unstructured fan rant columns where a fan wakes up and just think their perspective is the most legit perspective there is, in a way. We feel there was a class of journalism in between, which is well researched and is stated into the facts, but has a lens of looking beyond the main movement. And that's what we pioneered, and we called it the fans perspective, that when something happens in the game, fans cares about the second and third order effect of it. And we would do that extra mile of research and create the right news piece around it, was our class of journalism, and still remains to be.
But you weren't doing like original, like, or sorry, like interviews and stuff like that with players and racers and the behind the scenes people.
Yeah, interview started somewhere early 2020, yes.
So you said that after, was it after 12 months after that time in 2018 when you guys got together, you said we're going to get more serious about that? Was it like you said like 12 months later that you all quit your day jobs?
So basically what happened after that is, so 2020 March, which is like 16-ish months, COVID happened. And COVID was an interesting time for media in general. Like, I'm sure, Simon, you would have felt that. And for us, the interesting piece was that we noticed that most of the people were like shutting down departments in the industry. Like big divisions were being shut off because one, people were scared, and two, live sports had stopped. So it was unclear what the coverage would look like. And most people scaled down. And our thesis was opposite, that we felt that most fans are bored at this moment, like we were, and people would want to consume a lot more, which is where we decided to double down. And at that point, we already had like a core team of 6, 7 people in our company. And like they were actually surprised, like, why are you doing that? This is the time to protect. And somehow I think we got lucky, or our thesis was right. It's one of those moments in your entrepreneurship career when you take a move and it works out. We took that move, and then media saw the rise it saw in 2020. We were able to ride that rise. Our class of coverage really worked at that moment.
And were you still relying heavily on volunteers, or did you start to bring on like staff writers and stuff like that?
Post college, the whole volunteer setup was done. So we basically registered our, like, we decide 2017 volunteer stuff was done. Then it was the founding team, and then we hired one person in 2018. End of 2019, we hired like 5 or 6 more people at that moment, and is that's the time we registered our company and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, so you were just paying all your writers and stuff like that at that point.
Yeah. From 2018, we were doing that already.
And so you were originally just monetizing with Google AdSense. How did you start to create like a better business, like in terms of like developing better advertising revenue streams and stuff like that?
2020 for us was honestly, Simon, learning by fire. Like we were learning like every part of the publishing business, like on the fire stove almost. Like we figuring out um, like right amount of like the quality checks we wanted to keep, ensuring that those are the highest standards, to figuring out monetization, to figuring out what does scaling up look like, to figuring out how does launching different sports looks like. And there is no perfect answer, but when you are going through that growth curve, you're just in it, and everything just happens. I was reading, like I would discover that what is GAM 360. I had no idea at that moment, and I would look up people online to talk to them. Then discovered, I got a call by Google that, oh, we are seeing a rise in your traffic. Do you want a GAM 360? Those were the guys I was chasing for 3 months, and they were ready to give me. That was like a shocking moment. We didn't have enough history as a company at that moment, so we had to actually give a deposit to Google, which is like crazy, to show our like credit history to Google so that they can give us that GAM 360 license. Then
So talk about what that is. What is the GAM 360 license?
so when you start, you are like a AdSense publisher, which any small and medium publisher can become, right? Like it's basic ads. And then I discovered that, okay, there is a better demand, like AdX demand, which you are not getting. And I would see these YouTube videos of Google Ad Managers, but I was like, I have no idea what this is. And like, if you could go to the website, you will not be able to register for it, etc. But then I somehow find this GAM small and medium businesses, which is something that you can get like on self onboarding, but it doesn't have good features, which is basically a better version of AdSense. And then when you hit a certain page views, depending on which area you were, you can get contacted by Google and then you get a better license of GAM 360, which then allows you to connect first, get an AdX demand, which is better quality of advertisers compared to AdSense. There is a better ref cut. I think in AdSense, Google takes 32%, in AdX, it takes 20%. You are able to connect open bidding and pre bidding. And these things we were like, of course, not aware before that happened, etc.
Yeah. So
So
it was a programmatic ad network that's better than AdSense.
yeah, and you only get when basically your domain becomes better quality. That let's say one of our biggest advertisers on us is like Berkshire Hathaway, and you can see that on Google Ad Manager. And they don't. If you are on AdSense, they are never really selecting essentially sports to do it. But when you go through GAM, these advertisers are technically selecting like, okay, I want to also show up on these domain. They can like whitelist you and stuff.
And so, what did that do? Like, it just did that immediately raise your CPMS in terms of like the amount you were making from advertising?
Yeah, it definitely like increased. Even though like 2020 was not a good time from an advertisement standpoint, like of course the industry rates were significantly down, but it fundamentally gets better quality ads, which is great for users also, and it increases your CPMs and RPMs.
And did you ever build out your own ad sales team, or have you always relied like completely on programmatic?
Yeah, so 2020 to 2020, end of 22, early 2023 was our core pure publishing time where we basically wanted to create the best product for the user, like in terms of what is the best quality written content that we can create. At that moment, we honestly didn't innovate too much in our business model. We were just innovating on how do we create better product because you're launching so many sports. We had to like create a better team, better infrastructure, better understanding of the users, all these things. Around 2023 is when we set up our media sales team, our boots on the ground journey, setting up our event arm, setting up our audiovisual arm, etc. That happened in our publisher to platform era in 2023.
Yeah, so you started doing what, like direct sales?
Yeah.
Yeah, and what kind of ads were you selling? Were you just doing like display ads, or were you doing like sponsored content or anything like that?
So it's a 360-degree package. It depends on which kind of client you're working with. So, for example, one of the campaign we have live right now is by Polymarket. They are launching back in US, and they, of course, like it's a big NFL season right now. So they have bought branded content with us. They have bought certain high impact media units on our website. And now we have a good amount of newsletters. So they are part of our NFL newsletter as well in terms of polls, voiced opinions, etc.
And so you mentioned NFL. So you started out mainly with tennis and Formula One. How did you start expanding into sports that are primarily popular in the U.S. like the NFL and NBA? How did you start moving into that?
So in 2020, when we were really going deep into what kind of content we wanted to produce, especially during that COVID era, we saw a rise of documentary culture happen at that moment, right? So NBA Last Dance came in. And so Jaskirat also likes NBA quite a bit. And seeing Last Dance come up, we were like, okay, this looks interesting. And by that time, we were already doing UFC. There was another guy in our team who was big into UFC. And that honestly started as an experimental project that really worked out. And then NBA with Last Dance and our whole way of doing the content that we did where we would cover storylines. So when Last Dance came out, a lot of people discovered like a Dennis Rodman first time, for example. And Dennis Rodman's storyline was way more important than just the episode, like the cultural context of it, the surrounding of it. And we were also curious to do it. So all that curiosity that we had, we felt there will be a lot of fans who would have similarly. And we would then go do content on it, which really created our mark in NBA. And that's when we really discovered the fandom of North America, like how deep that fandom is and how culturally rich in sports the generational culture is, etc. And that's when we started to launch these things. So NBA was big for us at that moment. Then UFC expanded into boxing. NFL we did a little later. We launched NASCAR that year, end of the year. So the next 2 years was basically us expanding into different markets in North America by doing different sports.
And you're based in Amsterdam. Where are your two co-founders based now?
So at that moment when we were expanding, Harit was in America. He was in West Coast. He was in the Virginia area, and Jaskirat is based in Italy right now.
So I guess that leads to my question: is like as you were becoming a bigger and bigger sports site, and and I do want to talk about like did this open access, but as you start talking to these American sports leagues and stuff like that, or like was there anyone who expressed surprise at this hugely dominant coverage of American sports was coming from people who were born on the other end of the continent or other end of the world? I mean.
Uh, it's a mixed bag of opinions. I would be amiss to say that people are not surprised. Of course, we are probably the most unusual attendees in most of the conferences and rooms. I've been to pit stop in a NASCAR racetrack where that's like I don't think people expect me to be there a lot of times. We've been to Digiday conferences and we're part of like newsletter. Like there are so many conferences and events and leagues where we're there and people are surprised. But at the same time, I would say two things. One, fandom is universal. Like people bond 10 minutes in, you're bonding on that fandom that then nobody really cares where you're from. And two, I also think like North America is a big culture of providing value. That if people feel that you're providing value to them, they really hear you out. So I've spent almost in last 3 years, I've spent more than a year in America, probably way more than that. And I've been fully welcomed so far, honestly.
Well, it's not just that you're all from from India. It's that this was always like a completely bootstrapped operation. Like you're competing against these huge media companies that have multi-billion-dollar market caps and stuff like that. So it's just like such an unlikely success story.
Yeah, I was just talking to one of my mentors some time back, and he pointed this out to me that when you go to Comscore and you see like the top 10, 15 websites, we are the only independent website in the Comscore ranking at this moment, like which is not backed by a TV house or a league or something like that.
Yeah, it's just amazing. So I was looking at your website and I was looking at your social media accounts. It seems like you were never like a social media forward publisher. Like your Instagram account only has like 33,000 followers. I maybe found a TikTok account that had like 200 followers. I found a YouTube account that had like 2,000 followers. Were you always like a company that was very focused on like the main website and not really like investing in like some of these other distribution platforms?
Yeah, there are a couple of nuances to that. So what really happened was one, initially we were as a company so rooted in editorial as a product that we really wanted to perfect that product out before we diversified ourselves and created a lower quality product in a way. And especially as a bootstrap company, have limited resources. So we wanted to be sure what we were doing was actually like really good first. And it just took us a really long time to get editorial right at the right quality. So around 2023 is when we felt like, okay, our product is at a good place. And at that moment, most of the industry, like social media and creator economy, was definitely picking up. But we decided to prioritize newsletters at that moment and communities. So we didn't prioritize brand socials, we prioritized communities. So we had like bunch of Facebook and Instagram accounts, which were like fan accounts. So we have 150 like just communities on Facebook. We have bunch of accounts on Instagram where even like players like Shaquille O'Neal, etc., follow those accounts and like it, etc. But those are not our brand socials per se because,
Sorry,
yeah,
I was so you mean so there's not an essentially sports Instagram, or there is one, but that's not your main emphasis. Like you might have like a one that's specifically for the NBA or something like that. Is that what you're kind of saying?
yeah, so we created these like small niche accounts, like our Lucky Dog on Track is our like NASCAR account. Essentially, Dunk is our NBA account. And then we even created like micro communities, like for a region or for a player interest, etc. Because we just felt in websites it's easier to do broad, but on socials, hitting like micro feeds is more interesting because people want to relate to their sports fandom is why we initially did that strategy. And that's the same strategy we did in our newsletters. So we have like 10 plus newsletters, and it is not one essentially sports newsletters. It is like essentially NBA, like which is called essentially Dunk, the Huddle for NFL, etc. But now I feel a little different about this. I think on socials, like the experience that you had of discovering our brand, and as we have started to invest more and more in our offline events and we have launched few IPs, we are starting to see the value of investing more in core brand accounts as well.
So I definitely want to talk about the newsletters. I want to talk about the events, but just to continue on the social thing, do you create like multimedia stuff like video and podcasts and stuff like that?
Yeah. So we have something called Creator Program, which we started at the start of this year. I actually talked about this on the Digiday conference as well. So the feeling that and we are a big, with our, like the fans perspective feeling, we do something, we ask fans a lot of questions. Like we run polls, we run surveys, we like give them gift vouchers to participate in surveys, but they in general give a lot of feedback. And we not noticed a trend in the last 1 2 years that fans, all age groups, are starting to care more about storytelling with just not just the news as well. And they want like these real world experiences of people, not just hear from the players, but like knowing that niche tennis influencer and seeing their take is starting to matter a lot more, which is where we incepted this program of creators, where we are combining our newsroom with creators, where we bring in their authentic storytelling with the journalism integrity of the newsroom. And that's our strategy on Instagram. And we are looking to integrate that strategy more on our website as well, where we work with right now 8 different creators who run different programming. So one of our creators run, for example, a weekly script on what if NFL is scripted, for example. So it's like a comedy sketch series. He's a comedian. Then one person runs like a blind ranking series, which is about iconic matches or listicles, etc. Then we have this niche NASCAR influencer who does something, etc. So that's our Instagram strategy right now.
So are these creators who already built their audiences and then you approach them about partnering with them, or are they ones where you launched a page with them? You know what I'm asking? Like,
Yeah.
were these people who already had their own Instagram pages, and you were just like, let me help you sell ads, or we'll help promote it, or like, what's the kind of nature of your relationship with
Yeah.
the creators?
Yeah, so we do have like in-house creators which are like blooming through our system, but the major strategy is how do we open our platform to creators in the market, because creators at this moment, and this is something we heard from them while talking to them, are facing this issue that they are doing this amazing content, but they miss three pieces. One, they're not in tune with news. They're generally doing something like they're doing more stories. So being able to connect their storytelling with news is a big piece. They don't really have the engine to understand that, which we do because of the scale of content we do, scale of traffic we have, etc. That's first. Second is their audiences are also very niche. They don't have a bigger mic that they're able to get through us. And third is the point that you mentioned, like the sales infrastructure, like being part of the media company infrastructure. So we do different sizes of contract with these creators, but the idea is once they join into our system, they are able to grow their audiences. We are able to get certain audiences from them. We are able to give them insights on what content to create. And the third is they become part of our platform from a sales infrastructure perspective.
Are they primarily creating content on accounts that you own, or are they still creating all the content on accounts that they own?
So they do a bunch of content on their accounts, and then there are like shared IP series that they work with us.
Okay, that show up on your own accounts, and those are the ones you're monetizing and sharing,
Yes,
like sharing revenue or paying them some kind of set fee or something like that.
yes, yes, yes.
So as essentially sports has grown in prominence, you said it's like Comscore top 10 for sports. What kind of access did that start opening up for you to the sports leagues, to the athletes, and stuff like that?
Comscore doesn't really open an access, even though that rank, I think that really helps you from maybe like agency presentations and things like that. It
No,
can
I
build
just
good
mean like
conversation.
as you. I just meant like
So,
as you became more popular. I'm assuming
yeah,
that these leagues realized you were becoming popular.
yeah. So there are a lot of accesses that open up. I think one, you can definitely get first conversation with practically anybody. It's definitely good in that way, but you'll be surprised. There is still a lot of like you need to be there in a way. Like so, when we set up our team in 2023, I have to credit Vishal and my team, who was our first 0 to 1 on the ground hire in US. The biggest difference that made for us is doing our own events or co-sponsoring events. When you do that, that creates way more tangibility for people than just eyeballs. Eyeballs are very hard to interpret sometimes until they see the engagement. Whenever they work with us, or let's say if they are a repeat user of a newsletter, etc., fandom takes a bit to feel, in my opinion.
Do you have like direct connections with like the NFL and NBA and stuff like that now? Like direct contacts and stuff?
So for most leagues, we have press passes. It's press pass. I have to say, press pass is a very big benefit that once you become a big media company, it makes huge difference. Most of the influencers cannot get press passes, by the way, which is like you can be a very big influencer and it's very hard to get a press pass. And once you have a press pass, the access that you get is amazing. That makes a big difference. Most of the athletes you can get like an interview there. We work with a bunch of journalists who use our press pass. Like one of the journalists we work with is Mark Medina. He breaks news from like we broke the news of Steph Curry playing into his 40s, or he took a interview which was like related to their coach, and we were able to get like a good quote from them. So it's interesting from that angle.
Yeah. So like any U.S. Open match or Formula One race or NASCAR race, is there usually like someone from Essentially Sports like physically at that event?
We try to be in a lot of events, but generally what we have is we have a calendar of like tentpole events and regional events. So tentpole events are generally where we have like our own setup as well. So for example, in the recent US Open tournament, we had like a kickoff event, which was like we had our own booth set up in that event, and most of the who's who of tennis industry was there. So there was Holger Rune was there, Nick Kyrgios was there, and we were taking their interviews. So that's like our tent poles where we set up our own booth, and we generally throw like a mini party almost. And then there are like regional events where let's say our beat reporter is there or some journalist is there.
Okay. And then so you said that you like have a specific events strategy. So let's talk about that. So it sounds like part of that is you show up to really big like sporting events and you have a booth somewhere or some kind of cordoned off section that people can get into. Is that like an invite only thing, or is that any of the fans that are there can come into it? Like what's kind of the dynamic there?
Yeah, so these kinds of events are generally not in the stadium. Uh, and this is something we started this year only. So we have had only like three big events. But what really we do is we pair it up with something. So generally, out like before or after the event, there is a who's who event of the industry we conduct where we call like the journalists, we call athletes, we partner with organizations. So for the WNBA event, for example, we partnered with Deep Blue, who are really invested in women's sports. And then we threw a whole programming where we had Natasha Howard, who came as an athlete correspondent for us. And Natasha Howard generally doesn't speak on camera so much, etc. She's a shy personality. So we generally try to add this touch because what we noticed in the market was too much media is focused on the top two and top three sports. And we wanted to really go for the underserved sports in a way, like sports which are not getting the right amount of attention. and we prioritize in our tentpole calendar those events right now.
So what kind of venue is that hosted in?
Like, for example, the US Open event was at the Central Park Hotel, next to the Central Park, where most of the athletes were staying around that area at that moment.
Like so it was in like the hotel's like conference center?
Yeah, like a conference center
And who
or
can
an event
enter?
venue.
Who can enter that? Like, do they have to buy tickets? Can anyone walk in? Like, how do people attend that event?
So, majorly it is an industry event. So it's not a fan event. It's like an industry event, but we do sometimes competitions to get selected fans in.
Do you do any like fan specific events?
We are yet to enter that.
Yeah. So you said it's industry, so it's like the leagues and the like apparel companies and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it will generally be like journalists, athletes, like apps or like companies which are working in those sports, influencers of those sports, then certain brands which are working in those sports, and anybody who has like interest in that sport specifically from a business perspective.
Yeah. So why did you decide to do that, given that you're more of a B2C publication than a B2B one?
This came from honestly the piece that you asked me before. Like in general, fandom, we have really like our online presence really captures fandom very well in our opinion right now, and we felt we needed to establish ourselves more in the industry in terms of people who are yet like who make decisions. So it helps us in our media sales journey. It helps us get interesting partnerships. So, for example, one of the partnerships that came out from this is a podcast that we are starting right now, which is our WNBA series. And that purely happened because you end up meeting people in the industry through these things.
And how do you monetize those events?
Right now, so the idea of monetizing those events is when brands work with us. Let's say if so we might do an event in NFL draft, and let's say the Polymarket partnership continues. So Polymarket is not just buying the online audience and the branded content and the high impact media piece. They can also be a co-sponsor of the event.
Okay, so you're not selling tickets.
No.
Yeah. So let's talk about the newsletters. So like I was looking at the newsletters. So they're all niche newsletters, and I think they're all hosted on Beehive, which I thought was interesting. Like it's like the name of the newsletter .beehive.com instead of it being like hosted on somewhere on like EssentiallySports.com. So what's the thinking with the newsletters? Like, how is that different from what you're offering on the website?
So the idea of starting newsletter was so basically for a couple of years our users were like they wanted more. There's so much noise in a sport that getting a news which is curated and it's very clear that okay, I just want to read like these four things and then I know what happened today in the sport was actually sounds very simple, but surprisingly a very big need in the market that it was not getting covered in a way. And you could do that on our website, but that habit formation is very hard to do on a website. And newsletter became like the place to do it. Like most of our power readers like open newsletter like 50, 20 times a month right now. And it's very hard to do that on a website. That's not an organic behavior. That is where the need of it came in. Why we did the whole beehive or this niche strategy, etc., is just the way email works. In my opinion, people care about getting news for the sport that they like today. On website, you still have that discovery behavior that you will browse through and see other sports and check it out, etc. But if I'm waking up and at 7 a.m. I open my mailbox, I want to get the news of my favorite thing in a way. And that's how we built it out. So we went niche by niche where we had the most fandom. And then we really went after our power users in each sport and launched them out.
Yeah, and it's not just by sport. It's some of it's by region. Like there was I saw there was a Buckeye, like an Ohio, which I think is Ohio, like a specific newsletter. So you can really niche down pretty far, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
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 And then some of these newsletters, they have like hundreds of thousands of subscribers, right?
Yeah. Our total subscriber base is above 1 million if you combine all of them together.
And for each newsletter, do you have like a specific columnist who owns that newsletter, who's like that's their like responsibility, and it's kind of building up their brand as like the newsletter's growing, or like does it have like a voice, or like what's your kind of philosophy on that?
Yeah, we have two approaches we do newsletter. So one is long form newsletter, which lives in the newsletter itself. You cannot even find that content on our website, which is the traditional form of newsletter that you're talking about in a way. And in that, we have like special columns. So we don't like the whole newsletter is not owned by one journalist. I feel as a media company, it creates a very strong dependency in a way. It doesn't fit with our core philosophy, but we have specific columns. So, for example, Mike Fisher is a columnist in our NFL newsletter right now. He does on our Cowboys newsletter, from what I remember. So we have things like this. And then we have a curation newsletter where basically an editor wakes up and decides that these are the five news and this is the poll and this is the best GIF of the day and best play of the day. Like they curate like 10 things that they want this audience to get and they send it out.
And how did you grow these newsletters? Was it like just calls to action on the website? Like if they're on like a Buckeye type article, there's something there trying to get them to sign up for the newsletter?
Yeah, so the root of the newsletter journey came from our first party data understanding. So in 2021, we started to collect reading behavior data of our users to just understand the users more. So we would know, let's say, if a user visited on our website, have they read like 80 articles in NASCAR and 20 articles in golf? That's how we started. And then we used to ask like polls to the users and like just check what their intent are, etc. The polls and first party reading behavior data gave us a lot of understanding when you would enter the website of what does the user actually want. And that really allowed us to create a very curated CTA journey with these users over time. And that's how we were able to grow our newsletters.
So what do you mean? Like a user journey? Like where are these users? Where are they initially signing up for the newsletter usually?
So basically, on the website, they don't go to, let's say that the Beehive website you see, nobody goes there. They go on our website, and on our website we have CTAs where we pop the right CTA up, or we create different funnels
Like
based
it's a
on what we
pop
know
like it's
about the
a
user.
like it's a pop up or something like that?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be a pop-up. It could be something they participated in a poll, and then they wanted to get the poll results, and that's when they gave us. They could have commented, and then they could have received a communication from us to understand that okay, do you want this also or not? There are like multiple product funnels we created on the website.
And are you monetizing the newsletters directly?
Yeah, we do direct sales either through our media sales team or certain editorial ads, and we sometimes send traffic back to our website, which also monetizes better than usual traffic because we know the users better, they read more, advertisers are able to pay higher because they're getting a higher intent user, etc.
So you most of what your monetization is like various forms of sponsorships and advertising, right? You don't do any like paid subscriptions or anything like that.
Yeah, we don't do that right now. Philosophically, I feel there are so many ways fans like tickets are like in hundreds of dollars. There are so many ways fans are paying already. I would hope to keep this free as long as we can for the fans.
So how many employees do you have now?
So we have a total team of 200 people, 200 plus people. Uh, our newsroom team itself is 150 people, and the rest of the team is our brand sales, marketing, growth, these kind of functions.
And you're just kind of distributed all over the place in terms of like where people work and stuff like that?
Yeah, we are a fully remote company.
Yeah. So when you look ahead like 3 to 5 years from now, what are you hoping to be doing then that you're not doing now? Like what are some big expansion opportunities for you?
So, first, I do think in the next 3 to 5 years, the landscape is changing really, really fast overall. There is the two big waves are coming. In general, the industry has become extremely fragmented, in my opinion, with more niche websites, niche newsletters, niche creators, etc. And it's very hard to do it sustainably if it's too fragmented. So I expect that all of this will like bundle up eventually in some form. That's one wave. Second wave, I do think that with AI, the way platforms work and cost of content creation is fundamentally going to see a shift, which will change the way people do things over time, which will have an impact of if you're doing less content or more content, it will have an impact either ways. So the only way you become bigger over time is having a stronger brand voice. And that's something we are fully betting on, that our repeat users, our power users, and our brand going more offline will make our brand much more stronger is the first big play that we're going for. And the second one
So
is
when you say go offline, what do you mean?
in more events, more events.
So you want to do fan events? Because it sounds like right now you're mainly doing industry events. Does that mean you want to start doing fan events?
Pure fan event, in my opinion, doesn't easily work. So I would like to figure out unique ways of doing fandom offline. So one of the ways we tested a year ago was we ran a fan competition online in NASCAR, and one of our lucky winners got to go with our team in an RV to Talladega race, and we had access to pit stop. And the fan was with us in the pit stop with the team that we had there, and he was live streaming, and then he was participating in things, etc. That was a very unique fan experience created. If you do that for one fan, the other thousands of fans feel way more connected, in my opinion. And that's how I would like to explore fandom when I say that we will go more offline. That what does expression of offline mean for fandom? Yeah.
So okay, what was the next thing?
Yeah, the next thing is the fragmentation that is happening in the industry. I do think there is a very big platform play over the next 3 to 5 years, which essentially sports is uniquely positioned to be the centerpiece of it. Like I would like to create the platforms where creators see a lot of value working with us because they're getting a lot of turnkey solution happening. Uh, if you are a creator, you're getting access to our audiences. You are getting a column in the newsletter. You are able to co-share on Instagram. You're getting access to press passes. You're getting access to a sales infrastructure, etc. And that's just one stakeholder creator. I can imagine multiple stakeholders that will see value in our platform. So our vision is that we create a central brand which has the stack for fan, where we are able to cover a fan in every journey, that you're getting the viral news on our website, you're getting a daily product on our newsletter, and you're getting authentic storytelling on our social and video platforms and through our IPs. And the fans get served that way. And people who need to create value from our platform, like a creator or a brand marketer, is able to do it through this stack. And that's what we would like to build eventually.
So you want to build like a bigger creator network
Yeah.
where they're bringing their audiences in and you're kind of consolidating that.
Yeah, creator network. What we want to build is creator network is one of the stakeholders. We want to build that all stakeholders see the value across the stack, where the stakeholders, if I have to really simplify, if essentially sports is the centerpiece platform, fan is one stakeholder for us, which is the most important stakeholder. There are creators, there are, let's say, brand marketers who wants to like be attached to this audience, and they should all be able to see value through this stack.
Okay. Were there any other things you wanted to move into over the next few years?
More investment in IP for sure. I'm extremely excited about an IP we are launching next year, the Florida IP that we're working on right now. I'm excited about that. If that works out for us, we definitely want to launch more, going niche by niche. That's one thing I'm excited about. We are working on refreshing some of the things in our platform. So right now, mostly our platform is very editorially rich, but we want to integrate the videos into the editorial. So like creator commentary to short form content in the article, etc. We are going through a big redesign of our platform to make that happen, which we hope to launch in Q1. That's another thing. And I'm definitely excited to go deeper in the newsletters. I we want to build the biggest sports network newsletter. Like, if you care about any team, any player, any sport in North America, you should be subscribed to Essentially Sports newsletter, and you should be getting the best news in the day.
Okay, Suryansh, those were all the questions I have for you. Where can people find you online?
EssentiallySports.com/newsletters, but you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
Awesome. Well, this is a lot of fun. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah. Appreciate you doing this, Simon. This was a great chat, and you are a good interviewer.
Thank you.